ADHD and emotional dysregulation. The brain science and what actually helps research shows that up to 70% of people with ADHD experience significant emotional dysregulation. In this video, we cover the neuroscience behind that connection, break it down into 3 core areas, and walk through practical, evidence-based strategies to manage those emotions more effectively. Part 1. What is happening in the ADHD brain? Children with ADHD show, on average, a 2 to 3 year delay in brain maturation. MRI data collected from hundreds of children found that cortical thickness typically peaks around age 10 and a half in neurotypical development, but closer to age 13 in children with ADHD. This delay is most pronounced in regions governing executive function, attention, and working memory. Most individuals with ADHD catch up neurologically by their mid to late 20s. However, the timing gap creates significant struggles with emotional and behavioral regulation during childhood, a period when core beliefs about the self are being formed. By the time the brain matures, many individuals have already internalized labels, built maladaptive coping patterns, or accumulated years of relational and academic setbacks. The prefrontal cortex, located just behind the forehead, functions as the brain's braking system. It enables pausing, reflection, and deliberate response. In ADHD, this region tends to be underactive, particularly during emotionally charged or stressful moments. At the same time, the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, is overactive. It activates more easily and remains activated longer, especially in response to perceived unfairness, frustration, or rejection. The result is what researchers call short emotional latency. Feelings arrive and trigger reactions before the reflective brain can intervene. Because of this, the brain is less likely to recognize its own overreactions or cognitive distortions, and it takes longer to return to baseline after an emotional event. Dopamine dysregulation also reduces patience, while norepinephrine instability contributes to the experience of being simultaneously fatigued and agitated. The ADHD brain's executive system develops more slowly and connects less efficiently to its emotional system. That is the root cause of emotional flooding. One more point worth noting: areas of genuine interest or stimulation often appear disproportionately advanced. A person with ADHD may display impressive skill in music, athletics, or academics while appearing emotionally underdeveloped in other contexts. This gap frequently generates comments like, "She has so much potential. Why isn't she applying herself?" Those comments can reinforce cycles of shame and withdrawal. With appropriate support, including therapy, skills training, medication, and lifestyle adjustments, these neural connections strengthen and emotional regulation improves. Part 2. 5 ways executive dysfunction affects emotional regulation. Executive function is the brain's capacity to manage thoughts, emotions, and actions in service of a goal. It includes impulse control, prioritization, planning, attention shifting, working memory, and time management. Here are 5 ways its impairment directly affects emotional regulation in ADHD. 1. Low impulse control. People with ADHD may react emotionally before processing has occurred. A student might snap at a teammate who suggests a different approach, immediately regret it, and yet struggle to prevent the same pattern from repeating. Emotional outbursts can look like anger, sudden tears, or raised voices, but they can also appear as uncontrollable laughter or excessive enthusiasm that overshoots the situation. 1. Difficulty shifting emotional states. Once an emotion takes hold, whether anger, sadness, or excitement, people with ADHD often experience what is called emotional stickiness. The emotion lingers significantly longer than it would in neurotypical individuals. A small mistake at work may result in hours of rumination, canceled plans, and a pervasive sense of failure. 2 mechanisms fuel this: hyperfocus, which can lock attention onto an emotional state just as intensely as a stimulating task, and an overactive default mode network, which tends to drift toward worry and rumination when no external demand is present. 1. Low frustration. Tolerance. Dopamine differences mean the ADHD brain is strongly oriented toward immediate reward. Waiting, managing setbacks, or tolerating boredom becomes disproportionately difficult. Small inconveniences can feel catastrophic, which increases irritability and the likelihood of outbursts. 1. Time blindness. People with ADHD often experience time as binary. Now and not now. When combined with low frustration tolerance, this means a current negative emotion can feel permanent. That perception accelerates emotional spiraling. 1. Poor working memory. Processing emotions is a multi-step cognitive task. It requires holding multiple pieces of information simultaneously while moving through a sequence of decisions. Poor working memory makes this process significantly harder. Without the capacity to keep multiple ideas active at once, it becomes difficult to remember context, consider consequences, or recall that the feeling will eventually pass. Part 3. Rejection. Sensitive dysphoria and biological triggers. Many people with ADHD experience rejection-sensitive dysphoria, an intense emotional response to perceived criticism, failure, or social rejection. The pain is real, immediate, and disproportionate to the actual event. A minor piece of feedback can feel devastating. Because of this, RSD often produces defensiveness, social anxiety, withdrawal, or chronic people-pleasing. The fear of saying the wrong thing or provoking disapproval can become paralyzing. 3 biological factors further amplify emotional dysregulation in ADHD. Sleep disruption. Up to 70% of people with ADHD experience a delayed circadian rhythm, with melatonin release occurring approximately 2 hours later than typical. Combined with an overactive default mode network and difficulty winding down, many people with ADHD are chronically sleep deprived, and sleep deprivation directly impairs emotional regulation. Irregular nutrition. The same brain networks that manage attention, time awareness, and self-regulation also govern hunger cues and daily routines. When hyper-focused, a person with ADHD may not register hunger until blood sugar has already dropped significantly. When overwhelmed, meal preparation may feel impossible. Blood sugar instability intensifies emotional dysregulation, increasing irritability, anxiety, and impulsivity. Sensory overload. The ADHD brain processes incoming sensory information with heightened sensitivity. Sounds, lights, textures, and movement can compete for attention simultaneously. When the filtering mechanism becomes overwhelmed, the nervous system shifts into a fight-or-flight state. Reducing multitasking and modifying the environment can significantly reduce this load. A note on strengths. ADHD is associated with genuine cognitive and emotional strengths. These include strong emotional intuition, rapid recovery from setbacks, elevated performance under pressure, the capacity to channel frustration into focused action when connected to a meaningful goal, and creative problem-solving and emotional regulation. Humor, storytelling, art, music, and movement are all tools that people with ADHD frequently use with real effectiveness. 9 practical strategies for emotional regulation. Before listing strategies, one principle applies to all of them. With ADHD, trying harder rarely works. The goal is to build systems that outsource executive function and reduce the cognitive load required to make a better decision. Treat every strategy as an experiment and expect to iterate. 1. Learn to pause. The single most important skill is buying time for executive function to engage. Prepare a script in advance, something like, "Let me think about that for a moment," or simply reflecting back what the other person said. Practice this phrase at home until it becomes automatic. Physical reminders like a written note or a bracelet can reinforce the habit. Use a tally system to track each day the pause was successfully deployed. 1. Name the emotion. Labeling emotions activates the prefrontal cortex and reduces amygdala reactivity. Say it out loud using an emotion word. I feel frustrated because my idea was not accepted. This step helps synchronize the emotional and reasoning centers of the brain. 1. Calm the body. Learn nervous system regulation techniques. The simplest starting point is a slow exhale. Grounding skills can be developed through structured practice and are widely available through therapists, courses, and video resources. 1. Support working memory externally. Because internal working memory is limited, process emotions externally. Write in a journal, speak into a voice memo, talk with a friend or therapist, or diagram the situation on paper. When building a new habit, write the steps down and post them visibly throughout your environment. External representation reduces cognitive load and makes the process reviewable. 1. Shift focus through movement. The ADHD brain typically cannot think its way out of hyperfocus. Physical movement facilitates connection between brain regions and helps shift emotional states. A short walk, jumping jacks, or stretching can interrupt rumination. Emotional processing is often more effective when paired with physical activity. The principle is simple. Move a muscle, move a thought. 1. Prepare counter thoughts in advance. When emotional reactions are predictable, prepare cognitive reframes before they are needed. Write down a recurring negative thought, then generate 2 to 3 alternative explanations. Prepare reminders such as, "This feeling is intense, but it will pass," or "My brain is drawing a conclusion because of ADHD, not because it is accurate." Post these reminders where they will be visible during difficult moments. 1. Break problems into smaller steps. Rather than attempting to process a large problem all at once, write it out and separate what requires immediate attention from what can wait. Identify 1 or 2 small, concrete actions for the day. One document filed is progress. A therapist or executive function coach can help design systems that fit your specific patterns. 1. Schedule emotional check-ins. Because emotions feel most urgent during crises, they tend to be ignored otherwise. Schedule a regular, low-stakes time to assess your emotional state. This could be a weekly therapy session, a designated conversation with a trusted person, or a brief nightly check-in. Consistent, proactive attention to emotions reduces the likelihood that they will build to unmanageable levels. 1. Reflect after emotional events. Emotional regulation is a skill developed through practice and reflection, not a trait that either exists or does not. After a significant emotional event, write about what happened, what triggered the reaction, and how you would respond differently in the future. Describe that alternative response specifically. This kind of reflection builds neural pathways that support better regulation over time. Developing the skill of sincere apology is also worth direct effort. Choose one area from this list. Write it down, add a daily reminder to your phone. Build a system around it, and work on it for several weeks before evaluating whether it is effective. Do not attempt to change everything at once. Emotional regulation with ADHD is harder than it is for most people. It is also genuinely learnable. The goal is not to eliminate intense emotions. It is to develop the confidence and the systems that allow those emotions to move through without taking over. Like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.